Hey, what's up? Peace and abundance always. Peter Abundant here, aka Dr. Abundant, your metaphysical scientist, your minister of metaphysical sciences, and also your doctor, your PhD in metaphysical sciences. So, with over 30 years of studying spirituality, religion, things that really get deep into the subconscious mind, mindset, hypnosis. There has been a lot of things that I've been sharing on this channel. And lately, I've talked a lot about being spiritual, not religious, and understanding that journey, understanding what it means to identify with somebody who is really coming into like a clarity as to your own unique journey along the spiritual path. Now, we are all on this spiritual journey. Some people identify that spiritual journey with simply just being religious, but being spiritual is more than that. Religion is just a aspect. It is a section, like a fragment of the entirety of the journey. And that journey is really about coming into the self-realization as to who you are, right? Like, and I'm not talking about who you are when it comes to your ego or your personality, even though those are parts of it, but ultimately who you are as to being the creator of your universe, of your reality, of your perspective. And when you understand that, then you recognize your power and your ability to actually create the life that you desire. All right. So I've done maybe the last 5 videos before this one were exclusively focused on that journey of being somebody who was religious or identified with a particular religion, and you have gone through a transformation of, questioning, of even experiencing trauma, programming, experiencing anger, resentment, right, toward religion, and feeling like religion has been used to manipulate people, religion has been used to control the masses and that nature. And I hope I helped to support you in recognizing that though those experiences are valid and they may be true, we have to understand that what you have gone through was needed for you to be where you are now in this current moment and to be who you are presently unfolding into, right? You are this person because you had to go through that journey of unfoldment to be the person you are now and to continue on to the person that you're meant to be, right? Whom you truly are. So I hope that the videos I've shared with you has supported you on this journey. But we're going to get more deeply into the connection or the conversation about God, right? What is God really? What is God from a religious standpoint? What is God from a spiritual standpoint? Are they completely different? Is there a blurry line? Are they one and the same? Right? So it's important to ask these questions because for me personally, my journey started with wanting to become closer with God. And the only way I knew how to do that at the time, over 30 years ago, was through religion. And for me, though, I decided that I was going to not just accept one religion as my way because my parents were this religion or my family members were this religion, but that I was going to actively study and look into various religions, right? So you started with the big 3, right? You start with Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and then you go into Buddhism, right? That was my journey, right? So for you, it could be different. And you may only have said, okay, I'm going to just go this path because this is the path that I'm familiar with. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you're currently at a position, at a place where you are asking more questions, right? Things are either not making sense to you or they're making sense to you in a different way outside of the traditional scope of that religion. And you want to go further. You want to study more. You want to actually like go deep into that. You want to go down that rabbit hole of self-discovery and self-realization and actually finding a deeper connection with God and what you see God to be. So when we talk about God, Usually what people do is they reference God from a religious standpoint. So even if somebody is an atheist, and according to most atheists, they don't believe in God. Okay. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That is their journey. That is where they are. Just like you want people to respect where you are, you have to respect and honor where they are. So if somebody is atheist and they say that they don't believe in God, oftentimes when you have conversations with them, they are referencing the religious concepts of God. In other words, somebody asked me basically, well, if God exists, why is there suffering in the world? Why are there children dying of starvation? Why are there wars where children and women are being raped and killed and all of these horrific acts? If there is God, then why, right, are those things happening? And what I want to do is give you a spiritual point of view as to why that is happening. Because my focus and my teachings and what I want you to understand is that though, yes, there is a creator that created all of this, we have to separate ourselves from the identification and the understanding that that creator is just sitting on a throne above us, looking down and just simply watching and being entertained. And then at the end of the show, he decides, or she decides, to place judgment upon us and tell us if we're worthy or not to be where he is or to go down somewhere else, right? Now, when I think about God from my point of view, my experience, right, my knowledge is to see, whether it be the Bible, whether it be the Quran, to see it on a deeper level, not to read things and experiencing things on a very superficial, shallow level. Because many times, if you see it that way, you will take everything literally as that is the way, right? But when you go deeper into the studies of metaphysical sciences, metaphysical means beyond the physical, right? Which means go beyond the literal, beyond the superficial, and go deeper into the meanings of what it is that you're reading, what it is that you're experiencing, what it is that you're feeling. Then you know, okay, there is something else to be gathered, to be gained, to be understood here. And so when people reference God, whether they believe in God or don't believe in God, it is usually from a religious standpoint. When I reference God, it is from a spiritual standpoint. So my understanding of God is that because there is a creator, because there is who you are, right? And you recognizing there is a aspect of you that desires to create, desires to do things, to materialize things, to create things, whether it be a lifestyle, whether it be, a book, whether it be an experience, whether it be a family. You are constantly in the movement of creation. That is because you are directly tied, connected, one with the creator. It is like understanding you are a branch on a tree, right? You may move, right? The wind may move you a certain way. You may blossom a fruit, right? But all the other aspects, all the other branches are completely different, right? But you come from the same trunk. You come from the same root, right? So it's understanding that when we think about God on a spiritual, metaphysical level, we are not focusing on the external God. We are focusing on the internal God. We are focusing on this divinity within us, which is innate within us, which is fueling us, which is guiding us, which we often call consciousness. When you understand that, then you recognize that, okay, yes, there is lots of suffering in the world. Though there is less suffering in the world today than there is ever before in history of time, right? Especially the history of human species existing here. It's just that we see it more and more often. But that doesn't negate the fact that there's still suffering. So why is there suffering? That is because it is not because there is an external God or there is not a God at all. It is because we are not living up to our divine potential. we're not being who we are supposed to be. We're not tapping into the God within us that says, this is wrong. This is unjust. This is not fair. We must treat these people, right, as if we would treat ourselves, as if we would treat our children, our mother, our father, the people that we love. So it is not because God doesn't care or God doesn't exist. You are only thinking that way because you're referring to an external God. Now, when you are understanding the internal, right, divinity, the internal, the God within you, and you are connected with that, then you recognize that, hey, if I get deeper into this divine power, then I have influence, I have say, right? And now some people have the whole conversation about, well, one person isn't enough. This process of spirituality is one of creating your own reality. And you cannot influence other individuals directly, but you can influence them by the ways in which you are being. So if you are being somebody who is proactive, who is doing all you can to create the reality that you want for yourself and the reality that those around you want, right? By just simply showing them and being an example for them, then you are doing your part. The more we do that, the more we as individuals focus on creating a reality for ourselves of peace, of love, of kindness, of joy, of laughter, right? Then we spread that out to other people. Just like I am sharing my knowledge with you here, you will begin to share your knowledge with other people. If not directly, you will do it simply by existing, by being in the same space, by them witnessing and seeing who you are. So the responsibility of fixing this suffering in the world is not up to the idea of an external God. It is up to us. It is up to the God within us. And when we all do that collectively, then we can completely eradicate suffering, right? Any kinds of trauma, war, right? Poverty, starvation, all those things can be dealt with. But it is because we are all collectively not dialed in yet to our divine power. And it is happening. It is a process. It is part of our evolution, you see? So it is going to take time. Life now, relatively speaking, is better than it ever has been because we are coming into this evolution. And yeah, there are going to be times where things are going to, we're going to experience a dip, right? Where we get up to a point where it's like, okay, this is great. And then things get a little bit hectic and chaotic because we're going through a transformation. We're going through a testing phase, right? We're going through a stage of transformation where we're kind of in a cocoon, right? We were the caterpillar. We were beautiful as a caterpillar. And now we're in this cocoon, right? And so now we are beginning to transform. Transformation sometimes takes some chaos. It takes some pain, some suffering. But then we experience a level of breakthrough. And then we transform into the butterfly. So your job is not to really focus on this external concept of God as if that is going to save you. Now, the reason why I say it isn't important to focus on an external God is because that is a religious point of view, that you are you, and then something separate from you that created you is somewhere far away. Metaphysically, spiritually, that is not the case. You are one with that force. You are one with that entity. That is why we practice meditation. That is why we practice grounding. We practice stillness. We practice mindfulness, because those are the skills, right, that allows you to tap into that part of you so you can communicate directly with the source, because you are one with the source by means of your consciousness. Your consciousness is the individualized expression of that which we call God. So when you take ownership of that and you take ownership of listening to your conscious, right? Feeling like, oh, I should go help this person. But then your ego jumps in and says, well, if I help this person and give them $5, what are they going to do with it? That's none of your business. If you want to support and help them, then simply do so. Follow your consciousness. Yes, it's important to be mindful and protect yourself. But there is nothing wrong with supporting somebody because you had that initial urge to do so. And then you can help them, and then they can maybe get to a place where they can help others. But it is by showing love, compassion, empathy to each other that we begin to spread that sense of love out into the world. And it is happening. I want to reiterate that it is happening. It is just not happening in a pace by which it seems that it isn't overshadowing the negativity that we are bombarded with. You see, it's interesting because there is more positivity in the world than negativity. But if you are only focused and only being exposed to the negativity in your reality, you're going to see it the opposite. This is why it's important to curate your environment. Be mindful about what you're watching. Be mindful about who you're speaking with. Be mindful about what kind of media you're consuming, what kind of books you're reading, because that is creating your reality. So as you understand taking ownership of your reality means you create whatever you want to experience, then you understand the significance of all of the elements of influence that you have, that is around you, that you are consuming on a subconscious level. You see, so again, we are wanting to focus completely on God here, not God out there. Because if we focus on God here, then this idea of getting rid of suffering, right? Getting rid of pain, helping people, supporting people, we understand it as our responsibility as divine, infinite beings. Infinite beings. So when you own the fact that you are an infinite being, you recognize that divinity within you, and you say, okay, God is telling me to do this. Here, God here. Okay. That is the only focus you should be putting your intention and your actions through. You see, because eventually what happens is you begin to be empowered with responsibility in a sense of recognizing that if you have an idea or a feeling like, oh, why is this happening? I don't like this. This isn't right. Then that means your consciousness, God within, is telling you to do something, to take action, to, again, create the reality that you want instead of complaining, blaming, right? Blaming a idea of God that you don't believe is real because you're not willing to take responsibility for the God within you, right? Because you are looking at it from a religious point of view instead of a spiritual point of view, right? That's the problem. When we think, oh, why is it happening? Well, because you see God as something separate from you rather than within you, rather than as you. So transform and change your concept and your understanding of God. When you do that, then you understand your power to create, not to sit, wait, and pray and hope, right? Not to say, well, this didn't work out. God doesn't want this for me. Well, you didn't do the things that you were supposed to do to align yourself with that desire. We are actually the hands of God. We, your passions, your goals, your consciousness is the force that allows you to align yourself with your purpose. That purpose is connected directly with the desires, the wants, the needs, right, that God has. You are here as an expression of God, an individualized expression of God. God wanted to have an experience called you. That's why you were created. And by that, when you are aligned with your true self and consciousness and living up to your purpose, following your passion, doing the things you love, right? Then you are, in fact, giving God what God desires. You are giving God everything that you were meant to experience and live. Your job is simply just to follow that. Be you authentically. The things that bother you, you take care of to the best of your ability. Cultivate a reality, a world that supports your desires. And then lastly, when we acknowledge the divinity within us, God within us, think about it in terms of how you see other people. I know for myself, when I started to come to this understanding and this realization, what happened for me is I started to see everybody else differently. I started to recognize that everybody is God, that when I communicate to an individual, even though the interaction can be, harsh, right? It can be unpleasant with certain people, you still have an understanding that though this person, you may not like them, but you still love them because you see the God in them, right? And you see their spiritual journey, you see where they're at, and then you understand from compassion, right? And empathy, like, okay, this is just where they're at right now. And maybe depending on how you lead that situation, that experience, that conversation, they get to bear witness, right? They get to experience a connection. They get to experience a sense of, wow, this person really handled me in a way that was strong, but at the same time graceful and loving, because when you are tapped into that divine power, there was a confidence in you. There is, yes, sometimes you still get angry. Sometimes you still get frustrated. But then there is always this sense of you are communicating, you are having a conversation with God right now. That is with every individual that you're experiencing. You're having a conversation with different incarnations, different unique sparks, right? Unique characters that come and that were created by God, that is God. So it just changes and blows your whole mind when you think about it that way. And so you realize that, hey, this person, I don't like them, but I love them, right? And it changes the nature of the relationship because your energy toward them is completely different. So when we go into the world, I'm somebody that gets along with everybody because I see them this way, because I recognize that divine power that is them to the core. Now, yes, there are many layers that are on top. There are many things that are covering up that divinity, ego, pain, suffering, right? Biases, racism, you know, those things are basically evidence of them being hurt, not being able to, tap into that divine power right now, not being able to understand it or comprehend that power. And because they are not tapped into that power, it expresses itself as negative emotions, negative thoughts, pain, suffering, depression, anger. And so when somebody communicates from that place, they have outbursts and they take it out directed towards you. Do not let them lead you. Do not let them control your space, your peace. You have to recognize that is their stuff. And what you want to do is you want to show them the beauty of being spiritual, show them the beauty of understanding who you are and how they can actually begin to see themselves and be for themselves and captivate that sense of peace. So when you really understand the difference between seeing God from a religious standpoint to seeing God from a spiritual standpoint, then you have not only a more beautiful, deep connection with yourself, but a truly deep connection with everybody you exchange with. And why is that? That is because you truly understand oneness. You truly understand that we are all literally one. one. God created all of this. That means God is all of this. You are included in that. They are included in that. So when you are being, right, in your space, living from your perspective, your consciousness, you have to recognize the oneness that is all here, the godness, right, the godliness that exists and surrounds you. Once you do that, it shifts everything. It shifts how you perceive events, situations, obstacles, challenges, people, trauma. It changes it all because you recognize that it is all for you. It's not against you. It is not trying to stop you. It is all for you, to support you, to wake you up. So wake up. All right. Wake up. Now, another thing people talk about is like, oh, if you think you're God, then create the solar systems, create the planets. Well, perhaps we have, right? Because if you think about it this way and you understand the oneness of all things, when you think about the solar system, when you think about the sun, and you recognize, okay, I am an extension of God, experiencing life as myself, then by that way, okay, I am a part of that creation, right? I am one with that creation. I am indirectly the creator of those things as well. Why create another sun? That wouldn't be smart, right? The things that are created now for us is perfect as they are. That's why they were created. So step out of the egotistical religious framework of God and continue to go on this journey of spirituality, because it will dissolve all of the negative limiting beliefs and paradigms and shift you to a place of no limits, absolute abundance, absolute clarity, absolute joy. Okay. So when you think about all the things, right, when they say, hey, God did it. Yes, God did it. But God did it through you, for you, as you. Okay. It is one. So recognize that oneness. And as you go and continue to keep that, contemplate that, the world will shift and change because it's based on your perspective and how you see it. And that's how you create the reality that you desire. All right. Thank you so much. Feel free, go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, get access to this free ebook, and so much more. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.